Today's show is sponsored by the ABV Barrel Shop. The ABV Barrel Shop is located in the St. Louis metro community of Arnold, Missouri, and is the world's first single barrel only liquor store. This store is owned and operated by Steve Akeley and Jim Fosnot. Get signed up for their email distribution list to find out when the store will be opening, what their hours will be, and most importantly, what they will have in inventory at abvbarrelshop.com. We are also sponsored by The Bar to Go. The Bar to Go offers a fully customizable carrying case that allows you to take your favorite distilled spirits or cocktail ingredients with you. Whether you're looking for yourself, a customized gift, or logo items for your business or event, The Bar to Go can help. Check them out at thebar2go.com. Use the number 2 when you type out The Bar to Go. Did you know Neely Family Distillery now ships its popular distilled spirits directly to you? To order, simply call 859-394-3258. Tell them the ABV Network sent you. And now, on to the show. All right, enjoying some more vacation time, and we've got a fun one today. Two really good friends of the show, Phil Collin and Jade Peterson. What do you guys know about this?
This one was a fun one, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love listening to Phil. Like, he's seriously, like, the funniest guy on the planet.
Yeah. He's such he's just the ultimate bourbon dad. I mean, he's just, everything about him is fascinating, and he's just a genuinely, he's not fake. He's genuinely a nice person, and I like that guy a lot. I feel like he needs
he needs like a late night talk show.
Yeah, he'd be good at that.
Late night bourbon talk show would be perfect.
I would tune in. Yeah, for sure. Maybe this will spur him on to do that. And then, of course, our other guest, Jade Peterson. He's always fun. He's a cool guy. He's doing great things over at Kentucky Artisan, and we enjoy our conversation with him. So with that, we'll turn it over. Phil Collin and Jade Peterson.
Let's drink!
Our first guest has managed to do a very lot in a very short window. He's launched brands distilled for well-known national brands and leads a team at Kentucky Artisan Distillery in Crestwood, Kentucky. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Jade Peterson. Hey, Jade. How you doing,
Thanks
buddy?
for having me on, Steve.
Absolutely. So glad to have you here.
Great to see you guys again.
Yeah. So talk to us a little bit. I know you do like to travel. So I see that online that you're a traveler. If you could share with us, because we always like to kind of kick this thing off with a little personal thing, where would be someplace you would suggest that we go that maybe we haven't visited yet? Maybe it's a hidden gem that's out there.
So my favorite place in the world to go is right here in the States. It's the Northwoods, northern Wisconsin, up in the UP. I love being up there, whether it's fishing, snowmobiling, staying out on the lake. You can go any season and have a blast. And hopefully some point in my career, I can retire back up towards that way, or at least spend a significant amount of time. But I absolutely love it up there.
Yeah. Yeah. So you just love the outdoor activities and all that kind of stuff. And
weather up there for most of the seasons is great. You know, when it's cold, you have snow, so you can be outside and still have fun. The only time you want to avoid is just mud season.
Mud season. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And anything else you like to do like when you go there, do you have, favorite restaurants or anything like that? Or is it just more about being out there outside and in the woods and part of the land?
Yeah, it's really just the atmosphere. You can be out there, whether you're on your ATVs or snowmobiles, side by sides, really anything. And, you can bar hop and go out, and there's great restaurants. All the local people up there are always so welcoming, and you just get to be out there with nature and really not have all the distractions that you get back home.
Yeah, very cool. Well, that's one we need to check out. I think you might be right on, kind of a hidden gem. I don't know that a lot of people head that way, and maybe they need to take a second look at that. So that sounds good. We're going to be talking the bulk of this interview about your career and the things that you've got going on. And I wanted to start this one off, though, because it is such a big deal. And obviously we're talking about an individual that had to have a very big impact on your life, a guy that hired you, Steve Thompson, the loss to him in the last year. Tell us a little bit about the man himself and, what he meant to you.
Yeah. So, people familiar with the industry, most everybody's run into Steve, whether it's, his outrageous off the cuff comments or a lot of the tutoring and teachings that he did. And there's not many distilleries that opened up with at least coming for him for a little open conversation. Even a lot of the bigger distilleries still kind of funneled, ideas off of him to get started. And, I got really lucky to start with him right off the bat. And I didn't start with him as a distiller, like you said before. It was just kind of happenstance that I was working there part-time, and our relationship kind of fostered from there. And I didn't have much family down here in Kentucky, so he kind of became my mentor in the industry, but also kind of that family, kind of the grandfather from a different family type personality for me. So we had our work relationship and our personal side too, where we end up at the same weddings together, or be out for dinner. We'd go get coffee, even when it wasn't work related. And if it was a life thing, where I was dealing with something personal, or he was, we might go get coffee, off the clock and hang out and go get dinner, those types of things. So it was a lot more connection there than just the boss employee side. And definitely, a huge loss. Really, it was great, for him to have been older, been up in his retirement home where he'd like to be out on his boat, be able to do those things right there at the end of his life. But still, untimely, for me getting my start here. But nothing but respect for that, man.
Yeah. Yeah. You just have to be happy for the time that you had. Unfortunately, he's gone. Happy for the time that you had, and then pay it forward by being that guy like he was to you. All the things he did to help you out. The best thing that you can do to honor his memory is be that person for others as they're coming up through the ranks and help them out, Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. So at Kentucky Artisan, you work with brands, and again, we're not going to get into names other than the big one that everyone knows about. We'll talk about them in just a second here. But, you're talking about collaborations and things like that, making their whiskey or doing special projects. And tell us a little bit, give us some insight about how this works. Are they coming to you and saying, hey, I want to make this? Or are they coming to you and saying, hey, we'd like to do something kind of cool and fun? What kind of ideas do you have? So tell us a little bit about how these collaborations work behind the scenes.
Yeah. So we kind of have both those bookends where, sometimes we'll get people that come in with an idea right off the bat that they've, paid a lot of, brand research and market research. And it's really fun already when they come in, and we're legit just following a recipe as best as we can. We'll give them samples of those and kind of walk them back and tweak them. Not everything on paper translates to the bottle exactly like you would think. So there's a lot of scale up and adjustments that can be made for products that way. And then we also get far on the other side where they come in and they just say, hey, we like what you guys are doing. Do you have any ideas yourself? Anything that you guys have put down, or have some experiments that you guys want to run that really haven't had funding for? And occasionally we just get to run with those ideas too, where, we can say, hey, I'd really like to run this malt profile, or try this custom barrel, or, anything in between. So it's really a wide range in there, and you get clients that have come in and wanted a little bit of everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. When I think most people think of Kentucky Artisan, especially the ones that go out and like to visit Kentucky and go to distilleries and that, they kind of just link you guys automatically with Jefferson's because you guys share the same home. If you're going to go visit Jefferson's, you're going to see Kentucky Artisan, and vice versa. If I'm coming in, I want to see what Kentucky Artisan's all about, I'm going to see Jefferson's. So tell us a little bit about what it's like working with them. So obviously a huge brand, a global brand, huge distribution, that well known. And of course they've got a big personality, the face of the company there, Trey Zoller. So tell us a little bit about what it's like working with Jefferson's, and then what it's like personally working with Trey too.
Yeah, it's afforded us a lot of growth. We partnered with them early on, probably 8-9 years ago. So a lot of their upswing here in the last portion of, their lifespan. They've been open for 25 years now. So we've been there for about 33% of it. So we've had I feel like a good big impact on them. We do all their barrel finishes come through us. We have our hands on every set of Oceans barrels that's coming in or out of port. We do all their single barrel bottlings, and we distill for them a significant portion of our capacity as well. So it's let us grow as they've grown. It's given us a good opportunity to have that, like you said, that nationwide, worldwide market kind of watching us. It holds us to a little bit higher standard than a lot of other smaller craft distilleries. But at the same time, Trey has that experimental thought process. So it gives us a lot of ground there too. He comes up with an idea and kind of gives me that opportunity to be the boots on the ground, to be like, all right, now go make it work, or let's work through those processes. So he's got a lot of ideas coming down the chute. He's developed so many products that have actually taken off and made a big impact on the market. So again, I think we give him that opportunity to have that smaller feel for the experimental side, yet we get to scale those up really, really big now. So it's been a lot of fun on that front.
Yeah. Obviously celebrating 25 years, big year for them. I see they have a documentary coming out. I watched the trailer with Trey talking and things like that. Are you is there any screen time with you, even if it's just walking around in the background at some point?
I have not actually seen it.
Okay.
So I was definitely there when they were doing the filming and asked to be part of some things, but I don't know what actually made the final.
You never know until you see the final edit, how if you made it or you're sitting on the cutting room floor somewhere. So yeah.
Absolutely. I don't really ever feel left out. We all have our specific roles that we do there. And like I said, I'm comfortable in that with kind of being Trey's hands on the ground there. And, it affords both of us to kind of stay in the part of the industry that we really enjoy. Yeah.
What has been the most exciting project for you to work on? And again, we're not necessarily asking you to name a brand if that would get you in any trouble. You can just describe it without explaining that, or you can share it if it's okay to, whatever you're comfortable with.
I think different parts of my career have, not that it's super, long or anything yet, but I've gotten the opportunity to get my hands in different parts, so I learned a little bit working with Jim Rutledge on his Cream of Kentucky line. His last one is bottled and bond is rye that we distilled at our distillery. So that was a huge process for us to finally see that go through, even though it's not a KAD brand, it's for someone else. And, he did all the blending work and picking those barrels out of that selection. But, that was really cool for me to see it actually make it all the way to market because most of our stock we sold off to get capital for our expansions. So we didn't really keep in the back there. I'd be lying if I didn't say that Jefferson's Ocean was probably the coolest thing I've ever worked on. This picture right back here is sunglasses with the reflection of a bottle on them from the O-Search vessel, where we did a private selected at sea out on the O-Search. I don't know how I'll top that if I that's been pretty awesome to be part of that group too.
Yeah. That's really, really cool stuff. So, tell us a little bit about, I wanted to follow up on something. I'm going to send it to McNew because it is time for a McNew question. McNew, she gets to ask question number 5 always. So what do you got for us tonight?
Okay, Jade. So if you decided one night, I'm not drinking neat, I'm not drinking on the rocks, what's your go-to bourbon cocktail?
Oh, it's beam bonded tall. I'll get it bonded and Coke tall.
Nice.
That's a good one. It's classic. That you can't really go wrong.
Yeah, I don't know. It's one of those things that's consistent if we're out doing that or, on the fly and someone's not really listening to the orders that are coming in. You can kind of just nail that one every time. It's harder.
And that's like a good dive bar when if you end up at a dive bar or a concert, like bartenders can't mess that up. Like I'm always like, I'm going to get a Jack and Coke. Nobody can mess them up. So that's a good one too.
Yeah. Yeah. We were at an Asian restaurant getting sushi and they did come back and told me that was my Jack Beam that they just brought me back one time. So we had to laugh about it. Cause again, we were like, there's no way they can mess this up, but they came back and of course, here's
Jack Beam. They do.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go. Don't you feel like the bonded is an underrated thing? Beam has a lot of underrated ones actually, but man, it's so affordable and good, and it's just solid, right?
Yeah, $20 pick. It's hard to pass up there.
Yeah. So we always like to ask, especially when we get distillers, what do you like about your job and what don't you like? Because it's so diverse. There's so many different things that you have to do as a distiller these days. You're part of production, you're managing a team, you're doing media stuff like this we're doing tonight. So what's your favorite? What's your least favorite?
I'll start out with my favorite. The favorite is definitely the team. It's team oriented. We've got a great crew. I like to be involved with it still, be on the floor, be working with all the guys. Again, started part-time working on pot stills where we were running 20 hours a day, really not knowing what we were doing to add in the column and all the new fermentation and everything else. So the team and then just the knowledge and the learning side of it. I thrive on both of those. And I'd say that the hardest part for me or the downside is I really treat every job as if I own it, like it's my product. I want to be proud of it, start to finish. And in this industry, it's kind of hard because there's a huge gap between the production side and the marketing side. And even from there, the ownership side. And like my hashtag and everything is just a distiller. And it's still such an industry thing where people come in and they'll be like, oh, well, do you own a brand, or do you own the distillery, or do you do any of this? And realistically, even for me, having the title that I do, there's a lot of, hey, he's just a distiller. Like that's what he does. And, I'm okay with that right now. In the future, I'd like to have my own brand and do that. But, for the time being, it's just keep my head down, make good products for all the clients and customers that are coming in, and really push to just get better at my craft.
Yeah. Yeah. So are there people in the bourbon industry today that you look up to that, you're like, man, it's unbelievable what they've managed to accomplish. And, maybe at the end of my career, I could only hope to be at that level. Is there people like that for you out there?
Yeah. The more you get involved in the industry, the more you see kind of, there's not shadow people, but the people that are doing the work behind the brands, the people that, get the recognition and actually have earned some of those things. Charlie Downs, a big guy when I got started out,
right,
was for me. Had some conversations with Al Young early on, of course, Steve Thompson for me, and then, Rutledge and Trey Zoller too. And it's a crazy combination of those, branding and marketing and, what can you manipulate in the industry with the whiskey, with the barrels, with all of those inputs, and still maintain quality and get out product that you want. So I kind of got thrown in the middle where, I had exposure to people that a lot of young guys don't get with Steve's relationship. So that was huge for me.
Yeah. You're working with a guy like Jim Rutledge, and, here's a guy, highest level of success in the industry, and really a good guy, willing to share anything. What's it like talking to him from your perspective? Because I've got to talk to him, and I'm in awe when I talk to the guy, but, you're doing what he does or did in his career. So what's that like for you as you think, man, at some point I can get to the knowledge he has, or you're like, I know as much as he does already?
It's super intimidating right off the bat.
Yeah, that's what I would think. Yeah.
Jim and again, Larry Embersaw is another guy. And these guys revolutionized a lot of things that we kind of take for granted. And, we've got a part at our shop that we call the Larry Loop. It's named after him. He designed this little feature that we use every day. And I think for both of them and how they came off to me was that they were very understanding that not every facility has the same equipment. Not everybody is trying to reach the same end goal. And if you can kind of get past that with what your expectations are for your facility and for your brands and you as like an individual, for me as a distiller, then it became a better conversation because you could go through the process down at the bare bones. So it was, hey, I understand why you like to do A, but your equipment only allows you to do B. So yes, that's the best you can do with that. And once you get into that level where it's conversational and not just a checklist of what, if you could spend any amount of money and build any facility you could, then you should do it this way. Well, we didn't have that opportunity. And both of them were really great coming in and being able to work with at that level.
Yeah. So, and as we talk about distilling equipment, you guys, in the last couple of years here, you have made a big change. You've gone from pot still to column still. So tell us a little bit about what you like about the new system that you've got. And then as you have had a little bit of time to reflect now, is there anything you miss with the old pot still?
Yeah. So I absolutely love it. I was, not to be meta, a little jaded when we were first getting ready to bring it in. Like I wanted it so bad when we were talking expansions early on, and we had the pot stills, and I would go into my yearly review, or anytime we could go in with like a wish list of what do you want, and every time I'd put this $250,000 column on my purchase list, and everybody would laugh and be like, hey, we're never doing that. We're just going to keep it craft, keep it small on the pot stills. And as our clients got bigger and we got better at what we were doing, we needed to produce a more consistent product at a higher volume. And the column really let us do that. I feel like it's definitely a cleaner product. It's more consistent. We have a lot of opportunity to still manipulate it, not quite as much as the pot stills, but I have a lot of play in there. I can, adjust the flavor quite a bit. But then on that flip side, what do I miss the most about it? I mean, you could get really funky with a pot still. You can get wild with where you're making your cuts and how long you're drawing stuff out, and really get to play with it a lot on there. Was it good? I don't know whether it's good, but it was definitely different. Like we talked before, you can play with that, and hopefully 5, 6, 7 years down the road, we can age it out, and it'll be a good component to something else. But I love learning on the pot stills. I think it teaches you a lot of the theory and distillation. You get a really good understanding of how to react to what the stills are doing or what your alcohol's doing on a daily level, and then moving up to the column afterwards. Ours isn't fully automated. You don't just get to push a button and walk away. So we still have to, keep everything in the ranges we want and move that flavor profile and just those congener levels, on the fly all day long. So,
yeah.
But I love it.
Yeah. The only thing I miss is, gosh darn, it was cool. That old Brown-Forman still you guys had looked like a UFO sitting in the distillery. Oh man,
yeah.
that was cool looking. You have to admit that thing was insanely cool. Yeah. Yeah.
I took a lot of photos when it was on its maiden voyage out of there.
Yeah. Yeah. I always heard the story, and you may be able to verify it. Maybe you can't, and it doesn't mean it's not true if you can't verify it. But I always heard, of course, Steve worked for Brown-Forman famously. And when they decommissioned that, they actually paid him to take that out of there, which is amazing to me. That amazing piece of history. They're paying him to get it out of there, which is.
Yeah, so it's still owned by Mike, one of the owners of Kentucky Artisan Distillery. He still does have it. So it was part of a bigger package. They went in and kind of, made an offer on a lot of things that were there, and that was one of the things that was included. And it's kind of one of those you would way that Ferrari is going to be included in that yard sale of old croquet knitting stuff, and there it was. You paid $50 and you walk away with this Rolex watch or something like that. So it was great for us. It served a huge purpose. Love learning on it, but we had to part ways for it pretty much for a safety reason. The copper walls were just thinning out, we had to make a decision whether we were going to buy a new pot or move up to that column. And safety was our biggest issue on decommissioning it.
Yeah. I get it. What's in store for Kentucky Artisan in 2022? We're still in the first quarter here. So what are we going to be looking at? Big things happening this year.
Yeah, so we're right in the middle of another expansion. I feel like every time we talk, I'm telling you right. Something around, and we joke in house that we just hate the furniture and we always got to move it around every 6 months. But 2 weeks ago, we brought in 3 new fermenters. So we brought in 5,700 gallon fermenters. It's twice as large as our old ones. And we also brought in a new cooking vessel that's about 3,000 gallons. So it's going to let us bring our production up from last year's numbers of about 3,400 barrels to about 6,000 once we get all the way ramped up there. And later this summer, we've got all new milling equipment coming in. We kind of went around the industry, looked at what everybody loved. We bought like a little setup similar to what Wild Turkey runs for the hammer mills and everything. And I just can't wait to get it all in, but we're still waiting on components with the logistics nightmares everyone's having. You get 90% of it and have to wait on one piece to make its round. So that's what we're doing on now.
Yeah, gotcha. Last question. We always like to end on a fun one here. Sometimes we manage to get at things that McNew and I debate on a personal level, and this is one of those things. We're actually kind of on the same page, but weirdly for different reasons, and I'll explain what that means in a second here. But what pizza topping? Like if you're getting ready to, if we end the show today and you're like, I'm going to order a pizza, I haven't had dinner. What would you get in terms of a topping on that pizza?
So I've got a little divide here. If I'm going to make it, dough to oven myself, I'm going with an Italian beef pizza.
Okay.
So we're doing the, Italian beef, banana peppers, giardiniera, white sauce, Chicago style mozzarella.
Sounds like Chicago. Yes.
Yeah. And then if we're going pub style, I'm going to do sausage, bacon, and onion from if you're going to be outside suburbs of Chicago.
Okay. Well, you got the answer wrong here. McNew and I, here's the weird thing, Jade, and this will make sense now. Well, I don't think it actually makes sense, but here's my point. I think pepperoni is the number one. So I just like simple. I like pepperoni. McNew orders a pizza. She gets pepperoni on there, but then she picks the pepperoni off because she feels like it has to have a topping.
Cheese pizza looks stupid. It just looks dumb.
Why does this make any sense? Why can't you just, if you like cheese pizza, just order the cheese pizza?
No, because I don't eat pork, but it needs a topping, and most pizza toppings are pork.
Okay, does this make any sense? Are you listening to this and be like, you know what? She's making sense. Yeah, you can't have a pizza without toppings.
You don't like bacon, but you like cooking in bacon grease.
I have never done that, but I feel like it adds flavor. So, I know that you also like Casey's breakfast pizza, and I like it too. But I get the bacon, and I pick all the little bacon pieces off because the eggs are good, and the eggs and the cheese are good. It's so much extra work.
Casey's pizza for a road trip pizza. You gotta have the breakfast.
It is. Sell her for what it is.
McNew, we're sending over someone to help you immediately.
Exactly.
I appreciate you.
Yeah. In McNew's world, that's very normal, but sometimes she needs some people talking to her.
I cause myself a lot of extra work sometimes. I probably could just get cheese, but I think it looks dumb. I don't want to do that.
All right. Well, let's give a round of applause for Mr. Jade Peterson. Hey, Jade, thank you, buddy. Jade, hopefully you could stick around till the end of the show. We do a little Q&A afterwards, that type of thing. That'll be good. And
I might walk away for a minute or two, but I'll be back and forth.
Sounds good. At the end of the show, too, we'll give you a chance to share websites, all that kind of stuff, too, okay?
Beautiful.
Talk to you in just a little bit. All right. What we'll do next, we'll take a quick break, and then when we come back, we're going to be talking to Phil Collin. We'll do that in just a few. Let's talk about the people who make these shows happen. First up is the ABV Barrel Shop. The ABV Barrel Shop is owned and operated by Steve Akeley and Jim Fosnot in the greater St. Louis area. It is the most unique shopping experience in the world of bourbon, as the ABV Barrel Shop only focuses on single barrels. We aren't open just yet, but our plan is to have the most diverse single barrel offerings from our many friends in the world of bourbon. By signing up for a weekly email, you will know our entire inventory we have on hand. In addition to single barrels, we'll have a tasting bar and a gift shop featuring logo merchandise from both the shop and the ABV network, as well as a full curriculum of bourbon education classes. Additionally, we'll use the gift shop to feature products from our partners in the world of bourbon, companies like Art Eatable Chocolates and Old Man Bay Signs. Head over to ABV Barrel Shop to sign up for our email and text distribution list so you can stay in the know. Hi, this is Steve Akeley, owner of the ABV Network. We're sponsored by the Stave and Thief Society. This is where you, a bourbon enthusiast, can expand your knowledge and emerge a bourbon steward. In 2017, I completed my Executive Bourbon Steward certification. It's the most comprehensive bourbon certification program available and connects you with an expansive network of bourbon enthusiasts and professionals. Check out the full listing of in-person and online certifications and join the society today by enrolling at staveandthief.com. Okay, let's talk about Neely Family Distillery. In 2018, I met Royce Neely at an industry event. He started appearing on our shows, and we became friends during my frequent visits to Kentucky. Today, he's leading the way for young distillers making their mark on the bourbon industry. A visit to Neely Family Distillery combines family history, a look at what makes their products unique, and of course a tasting through their whiskeys, moonshines, and creams. Check them out at NeelyFamilyDistillery.com and visit them in Sparta, Kentucky.
This is Debbie Kennard, and my altar drinking Edo is Freddie Miller. I'll drink to that.
All right, our next guest is definitely a friend of mine. We've enjoyed him coming on the Bourbon Daily as a guest host for years, where he shares his wit, wisdom, and his impressions. Maybe we'll get him to do an impression tonight. That way people can see the visual too. So it's you know, we always get the audio on the Bourbon Daily. We'll get him to do that. Recently he's branched out and started his own whiskey events company called Phil Talks Whiskey. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Phil Collin. Hello, Phil.
Too kind.
Well,
Hard act to follow. Putting me on after Jade Peterson and his fantastic stories about distilling.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
Tough
Jade's a
stuff.
cool
Jade,
guy.
the before I forget, the new Collin still is just beautiful. It was cool to see that in person a few months ago. That's great stuff. So
we keep it shined up.
yeah, that's the way to do it. Quick, tourists are coming. Get the cloth out. Polish it up.
Polish it up.
I tried to dress nice, Steve, because so much of what we do with ABV Network is audio only, and no one ever has to see my ugly mug. So I tried to put on my
You look good,
blazer.
Phil.
I got a mug.
You got the mug?
It says visitor's mug. It's like I'm on the talk show.
It's like
couch.
you're on the set, and please turn that in before you leave, Phil. Don't take it off the
What's
set.
the t-shirt say though, Phil?
It says please. It's from the local coffee shop. Please and thank you. It says thank you on the back. It was it's very soft, very comfortable. It was a Christmas gift for my wife.
For the rest of it. I was like, is it please give me whiskey?
No, it is just please, and on the back
It's not whiskey themed. Okay, yeah,
so it's coffee themed, which is my other great love.
Yeah, you're definitely a coffee guy. I mean, you post about it a lot. Sometimes you go where you just post your coffee mugs for like a whole month.
that was more during the COVID days. There wasn't a lot of going to the coffee places. So I counted up all the coffee mugs I had, and I said, I have 62 coffee mugs. And a lot of these never see the light of day. And I said, you know what? I'm going to take a picture of them every day. That was fun. Maybe I'll do that again. And then tonight in my glass, Jade, we got a little whiskey row from Kentucky Artisan. This is the 4-grain offering you guys have on the shelf, right?
Yes. All our whiskey rows are 4-grain. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a funky one. I enjoy this one.
Very cool.
Steve, thank you so much for having me. This will be fun.
Yeah, glad to have you. And of course, we like to kick things off on a personal basis. So, Phil, I always say you're the ultimate dad. The past 2 years, though, have been unprecedented for parents across the board. Dads and moms have had it really tough. I always think that, as I look back, I kind of had it easy. My daughter graduated college in 2019. So the last class, not to be involved in any sort of, shutdowns, be at home, all homeschooling and all that. So, but you've had to deal with that for the last couple of years. What's it been like having a couple of young kids, school-age kids?
It's been a ride.
Going to school, not going to school. So they're doing this all. Yeah. So tell us about that.
My son is 7. My daughter's 5. So it's certainly been right in the thick of it. They're old enough to understand what's going on, but also young enough to really roll with the punches, for all they know, you're telling them how it's going to be. Just today, we found out at my daughter's preschool that masks will be optional starting tomorrow, and that's the first time in 2 years. So that feels like a landmark milestone. But in the early days, it was crazy because everyone was at home. There was nowhere to go, and so you're relying on your seat of your pants to entertain and keep not only your kids sane, but yourself mentally healthy and sane as well. So we started this thing called the Explorers Club. And every day,
I love it.
Every day. It went to every other day pretty quickly, just before you give me too much credit. Every day, me, would drop off a manila envelope in our folder and have the instruction of where you're going on the Explorers Club. And it gave my chance to see parts of the city that a lot of people don't go to, that aren't attractions, that aren't manned, that aren't open. For stuff, like Zachary Taylor's gravesite, National Cemetery, where President Zachary Taylor is buried.
There's learning here too. This is not just fun stuff. There's education.
Yeah, they had to write about it in a journal and take a photo, Polaroid, and put in it. And there was, because who knew? We didn't know how long it'd be before they got back in any type of structured learning. There's something called the Heigold House, which is this big famous facade off River Road in Louisville that's got no back to it. And my favorite thing we showed that most people, Louisvillians, don't know about is Lottie, which is a triceratops that currently lives in a abandoned parking lot next to a storage facility about 3 blocks from Brown-Forman's corporate headquarters.
Really?
And Lottie stands for Louisville's own triceratops. It was part of the touring Sinclair dinosaur show. There's a grassroots effort to restore, but there's this giant life-size fiberglass triceratops. They got a kick out of that one. They thought that was the coolest thing of all time. Just kind of tucked away in an old storage facility, parking lot that anyone can go see. So, you make it work. You think on your toes, and you do things like the Explorers Club.
Yeah.
I think that's right by Trixie's. That's right. You could.
Is it near Trixie's, Phil?
Not so much, but Lottie's and Trixie's would go hand in hand. It would be a fun combination. That'd be.
No, Phil, a place that
not so far
up your alley with the dinosaurs. It's Dinosaur World off 65. It's terrible, but it is so great at the same time. We were coming back from Nashville, hungover as fuck as adults. I was 22, and we're like, let's go to Dinosaur World. We had the best time. We were idiots, but we had the best time there.
No, we've taken the kids, and I think you summed it up pretty well. It's both terrible and amazing all in one time. Look at the dinosaurs, Daddy. All right, I'll look at another faux giant fake dinosaur. Great.
My greatest dinosaur experience ever was in 1983. I was a freshman in high school. Class senior prank. Someone got the Sinclair dinosaur, a huge dinosaur, put it out in front of the school. Greatest thing ever. Pulled up on the bus, and there's a Sinclair dinosaur.
And that's what Lottie is. It's one of the Sinclair dinosaurs. So that's pretty
really?
cool. That's awesome. What a connection. That's fun.
Absolutely. All right. So Phil, take us back to the beginning of your bourbon journey. When did you start drinking bourbon? You realize, hey, this is something that I really like, and maybe I want to know a little bit more about the spirit.
Yeah, so the number one thing we get in working in the bourbon world for people who come to us is what's bourbon and how's it different from whiskey. So for a long time, I was drinking all sorts of whiskey, a lot of scotch, and I was kind of associating it all as having the same taste palette. So do you like bourbon? I like it okay, but what it really meant is I like scotch okay. And, it was Johnny Walker Black, the occasional Talisker, stuff that had smoky and peaty notes that weren't for me. So along the way, probably as recently as 10 or 15 years ago, I started dipping my big toe into various bourbons, mostly Kentucky bourbons. And pretty quickly, I learned that this was wonderful. The complexities, the notes really hit my palate. And and one thing led to another. And it really became the preferred beverage after a long journey through everything between Guinness and Tanqueray and tonics. And you like what you like. And bourbon whiskey just is something I can't get enough of. And it's got very little to do with the contents of my glass. That's like 20% of it. But what I love about bourbon and what got me into originally doing Bourbon Trail tours and now Phil Talks Whiskey is the lore, is the history, is the business side, is the branding. And then, with Jade is the process, the distiller's craft that so often gets overlooked about what it takes to actually put something delicious in a bottle and what goes into it. And all that combined has made bourbon just incredibly appealing. And of course, and Steve, something you and I talk about all the time, the people behind bourbon, the people involved in bourbon. It's a tremendous collection of both professional individuals and people who are just highly passionate for it. Yeah.
When I first met you, you were a tour guide. What drew you to that job? Is it just, was it the fact of learning on the job, meeting people? What did you like?
No, and that's a great story too. So I long time worked in the professional world, the digital marketing, stuff like that. Good gigs, a little bit boring, paid the bills, happy enough. And then I was home with my son after he'd just been born. I'd left my previous job because it wasn't a great fit, wonderful company, but it wasn't for me. And I was taking time with Duncan and I was deciding what I wanted to do. And when my wife and I lived in New York City, we hosted these things called the NYC Big Adventures. And they were days out around the city that were designed to be inexpensive, social, unique to New York City, and incredibly fun. And I said, you know what? I'm good at that. That's kind of what I wanted to do. So I looked into bourbon tourism and I said, I'll roll the dice and take a shot at this. It combines two things I like, a love of whiskey and hosting tours. And immediately it was a great fit. And I immediately found that this was the job I had been looking for a long time, to be at the front of a tour bus, spending my day with a window view of the rolling Kentucky countryside and just showing people a good time. And that's the bottom line. That's what I loved most about tour hosting, was the ability to have anywhere from 2 people in a Suburban to 55 people on a coach bus and being challenged with showing them a good time over the course of a day or more.
Yeah. The next job you had, and this is one where all three of us, myself, and Jade, all involved in this, the bicycle ride, the Bourbon Burn. So that was your next career move. So tell us a little bit about working for them and what you did. And
that was wonderful.
All that stuff.
Yeah. 2 years working for them. Basically, there was only 3 of us full time. So, my title was one thing, but basically jack of all trades, making everything happen from handling registrations to creating the experiences. And it is an amazing learning experience to see how much goes into hosting one 3-day event with well over 1,000 people who come to the Kentucky Horse Park in Lexington, Kentucky. Our motto is ride bikes, drink bourbon. I always used to joke it should be ride bikes during the day, and after you get back later, drink bourbon, because there usually was some confusion every now and then who thought it might be a booze ride. But it was wonderful. And the thing I enjoyed the most was working with the distillery partners and building either the experiences back at base camp, where we have our VIP presentations and the distillers who set up and give samples to everyone who participates in the ride, or the on-site distillery experiences where people ride and visit.
Yeah.
2 years, worked my ass off at it. I learned, I grew, and I looked at Austin and Molly, the co-founders, and I said, I want what you guys did, which was to set off on something that they were passionate about, and started a bike riding and bourbon whiskey. Into the bourbon whiskey, the bike riding, I learned terms like what a cassette is. It's the thing on the bike, but I was never the bike people. They were always the bike people. So I said, I'm on to stake my own claim, to start my own thing. Bourbon Burn this year, registration is still open, September 30th to October 2nd. Just a plug. It's a great time if you're on a bike. What's that?
Are you riding?
I'm not riding, but you'll see my face. I'll be helping out. One time they'll get me on a bike. The shortest distance a day is only 26 miles. So I think even on my worst day, I can do 26 miles on a bike.
Can we tag team it? Because I feel like everybody on the ABV network, we're like, I can do like 5. We can tag team.
Yeah, I'll tell you a secret. You can go 5 miles, pull over, stop. No one knows. It's not a race. It's a ride. You can come back looking tired, splash some water on your face.
Yeah, that would be me. I would mess things up, and I'd come riding in back first. And
now that we've got a support, they have a support and gear van, a SAG van, and you can call it for assistance. But if you've only ridden 5 miles and you don't have a flat tire, you might get the side eye. You might get a little judgmental stare about what's going on. What's wrong?
Well, then they take a look at me and they'd be like, "Oh, okay, it makes sense."
But it was so cool to work on that small team with like 2 very passionate people. I learned a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. So recently you split off though, and you started your own company. So tell us a little bit about Phil Talks Whiskey. What are you looking to accomplish with your business?
It's almost the same as it was at Toros. I want to show people a good time. So it's a unique bourbon adventure company where everything's kind of customized and set. I really want to work with groups of all sizes, but the smaller groups I can create more intimate, more highly tuned, listen to their needs and create something. I want to pull on my experiences and also my knowledge of all the great nooks and crannies and hidden gems throughout the state of Kentucky. It really feels a niche in some ways because there's a lot of people out there in this bourbonism and this bourbon tourism right now. But companies who are seeking the fastest road to profit often kind of garden variety everyday tours that take you to the same place or tasting experiences that are the same presentations over and over. I'm looking forward to the challenge of hearing from a group and creating unique, different experiences that I know I'm up for the task that can do fun things. For example, taking people out to Crestwood on a more regular basis at Kentucky Artisan. But there's all these great. I'll give you one example too.
I got a group going out there.
There you go. Jeff the Creed has that wonderful barrel room with those leather chairs. It's probably one of the best spots on the Bourbon Trail, and it doesn't get half the love it should. I want to turn people onto that. I want to turn people onto tiny restaurants like the Stave down, not so far from Woodford Reserve. And then when people say a tasting, I want to know from them what they want to do in their tasting. Do you want to taste dusty bottles that no one's opened in 20 years? Do you want to taste product you can't get in your woods? Do you want to do a blind tasting to see how much you taste also? So the goal with Phil Talks Whiskey is certainly to show people a good time through bourbon, but more importantly, to give them the experience they want to have. What are you looking to get out of this? What do you want to learn about bourbon? What can I tell you? What great stories can I tell you? So that's the long and short of it. No, man, you are perfect for if you ask me to design like the perfect person to have a company like you've got, you're the guy. I mean, you have this passion, you've got the knowledge, you bring fun to everything that you're doing. I just think it's a perfect situation. So do what you love, right? Yeah. I mean, it's been a long journey, but this is the place I'm meant to be. And I'm just, I think what keeps me open right now is the idea of blown opportunity. And I think all of this has tremendous potential. December 7th was my first day, so about 3 months in. And I just want to do my best to jump in on it with all my momentum and energy every day to make it work. The one thing I've learned quickly in the life of an entrepreneur is that if I don't do it, it doesn't get done. It's not the corporate world where I could put my out of office on and ask Steve from accounting if he can watch the email for 3 days.
Right. Oh yeah. There's no backup there. It's just you, or like I said, it doesn't get done. Yeah,
but life's short, man. I'm just trying to do what I have a passion for and what I really love. Yeah. Another thing I love about bourbon industry, you meet a lot of people in the same shoes,
Yeah, absolutely. Well, guess what? It is time for a McNew question.
My Hoosier State soulmate.
McNew question time.
My top 5 favorite Indianan.
I made the top 5. That's great.
You're right between John Mellencamp and Reggie Miller. Right.
It's better than I thought. Oh my God. I think they both have murals on them in their hometowns. I don't have one yet. That's
not yet. You hear her say not yet.
Not yet. Somebody paint one in Strawn, Indiana. They don't have any standing buildings that are not homes, but paint one somewhere. Put it on my mom's house. She'll be excited. So my question, Bill, you actually have one of my favorite Instagrams. You have great photos, fantastic photos.
Oh gosh.
That your captions are better. Like they're witty, they're funny, but they're still informative. So
this is less of a question and more of just like
accolades.
I love Phil.
The question was written by Phil, actually.
And I guess how much time you've been coming up with them because they're witty, they're funny, they're great. Like, just what inspires all the great captions you come up with for these great photos?
Yeah, I mean, a little secret sauce. It's trial and error. I write stuff and see what traction it gets, and I try to be very cognizant about my social media. I try to have a bit of a strategy because that's the best way I can show people who I am and what I'm about. And McNew, between you, me, and everyone listening, I rewrite those suckers 5 or 6 times before I post them.
They're
sometimes.
Perfection. So I'm like,
thank you.
Just like fling whatever's on his brain out there, like I do. Yours are great.
Yeah, there's always working to make them better, but I'm glad you find them engaging and interesting. So,
I think a lot of people do. But I'm always impressed. I'm like, oh, it's a Phil post. Like, I'm going to learn something today.
I think it's safe to say I'm one of the top 10,000 bourbon Instagram feeds out there. Easily, maybe top 9,000. So,
nice.
But it's fun. There's a lot of great stuff to share too. So, I mean, Instagram's a natural fit because bourbon country and all things bourbon, even a bourbon bottle, just so photogenic and so worthwhile sharing. And with all the news and releases in bourbon world, it's content that really makes things easy. So to flip the other side of the coin at it, you have these major distillers whose Instagram accounts are somewhat inactive or somewhat quiet. And I feel like find someone on your staff who's fairly good with the camera and walk around, take pictures for 2 days, and you've got amazing content that's going to draw visitors for months. So I'm always amazed, not to me, but to the other side when people don't take advantage of what they have under their thumb to create great accounts. But thank you, McNew. That was very sweet of you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, I just appreciate you. I'm like, Phil posted something. It's going to be gorgeous. I'm going to learn something. It's fantastic all the time.
Yep. I better delete my foot fungus post I had planned for tomorrow. So.
Well, I probably learned something. I like gross things.
True.
That's great.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, McNew does like gross stuff. She likes that Pimple Popper MD is one of her favorite shows, which why anybody would watch that, I have no idea. I don't know.
Bro, I don't know. I don't have an answer for that.
Phil, when you're starting a company like yours, I say that, one of the hardest things to deal with is, all the opportunities because the limits are only your own.
Right.
I'm helping an individual who's a friend of both of ours right now. Is kind of getting into kind of what we're doing, and I'm trying to help him. And there is so many things. It's like, well, I can do this, and I can do this, and I can do this. And by the way, I could do this, and I can meet with these groups, and I can. There's so many things. How do you get the focus that you need to make sure that you're doing something at first? And then build it out? Yeah.
Well, I've got a nice problem right now because the ship is kind of steering itself, and a lot of people have reached out to me for various experiences. And one thing that's kind of quirky, but I'm actually really looking forward to, is a retirement community for seniors outside of Detroit just booked me for a 3-lecture series via Zoom in May and June over the course of several weeks. And she made it very clear these are our active seniors who go out to jazz clubs on
active
Tuesdays.
Seniors, yes.
And I can't wait. That's going to be great. They're customized presentations, and we've picked some topics I'm going to talk to them about. But that's not exactly what I had in mind when I set out this. So the goal is to me to kind of recreate the things I want to do. And I'll tell you 2 ideas I have. We'll see if they come to fruition. They're hurdles with both of them. I think they're very doable. There is in Louisville, Kentucky, on Lexington Road, about a quarter mile from a concert venue called Headliners, a door that just sits in a wall. And everybody always speculates, what's behind this door? The Neil and Melanie are nodding. And it's surrounded by stone, and it's kind of mysterious, and it seems like it goes somewhere. And that door actually goes to a very small event venue that in the late 1800s used to be storage for freshly brewed beer before the days of refrigeration because it was cooling underground. It's privately owned. The owners have essentially given up using it, but I think it would be perfect for a scavenger hunt speakeasy event that you drive people there, they find their way there, and they go do something like this, all behind this unmarked door in the wall. Yeah.
I was going to say, or we can age some whiskey in there. If
yes, there you go. The cave age whiskey. It's not a new idea. And another one too is that if you so it's events like that I want to do. Another one that's on the top of my mind is if you ever go down. Now these are in Louisville, but I really do. I mean, it's called Phil Talks Whiskey, not Phil Talks Louisville Bourbon. So the idea is to be able to go wherever and do wherever. But to specifically talk about this idea in Louisville, there's a beautiful building called Union Station. It's currently used by our transit authority. It's the old train station. They preserved it incredibly well, but hasn't been used for rail transport for decades. However, about once a year, on that first Saturday in May of the Kentucky Derby, private rail cars by the scores pull up and park there. And all these people who are either wealthy enough or have rented a private rail car can go up to Union Station. So there's a service that you can commission to get a private rail car to take you anywhere you want to go from Union Station. So I would love to do an on-train bourbon tasting from Louisville out of Union Station along the Ohio River up through Indiana. in an afternoon. So these are the jaw-dropping, fun, unique things that no one else is doing that I really want to be doing. And we'll get there. It may not be as quick, but right now I'm excited that anyone's ringing my phone and wants to do bourbon experiences, whether they're basement tastings or small tour groups or presentations and lectures. And that's largely what I'm doing right now. And it's great. So
yeah, I've been seeing online you're doing some of those. You put some photos out of, events and it looks like some whiskey tastings and stuff like that. What's the tasting with you like? Are you combining education and fun, or what's it, jokes, impressions? Is there ever an impression involved?
Yeah, there's impressions. They're great. So I mean, honestly, aside from being on the couch with my kids, there is nowhere where I feel more home than in front of a group of people. Okay. So my tastings are engaging, they're interactive, and they're fun. One thing about not being associated with a particular brand is it allows me to tell the good and the bad of brands, the tall tales, the lores that are almost, 90% true, and that you won't hear a brand rep be able to tell in the same way. And even the fun stories that for some reason, I'll give you an example at Maker's Mark. One lesser known story that's 100% true is that Colonel Sanders, when he was starting out selling his chicken in the early 1960s, his very first employee before KFC Incorporated was Bill Samuels Jr. They were old family friends, and Bill Samuels Jr. was driving the truck as a 16-year-old while Colonel Sanders was visiting all the shops to sell his franchise chicken recipe. That's a wonderful 20-minute story that I have all the details on that I love to share during the tasting that they don't tell you when you visit Maker's Mark for one reason or another. So the tastings are fun. I always want to hear from people what they are tasting, what they like. It's never designed to be presumptuous. It's never designed to tell them the senses and smells they're getting. When I did a tasting in Cleveland about 2.5 weeks ago, I looked at a gentleman and I said, so tell me, what's your special occasion whiskey? What do you reach for when you've had a good day or a special occasion? He goes, I reach for Buffalo Trace. I said, okay, which Buffalo Trace product? Blanton's, Eagle Rare? He goes, no, we in Ohio don't get crap. I reach for regular Buffalo Trace, and that's my everyday bourbon. And, we all had a good laugh over that. So the tastings are a lot of fun, in short. Yeah. And if all goes well, they walk away learning something or two.
Yeah. You got a question here. Where's home base? So you're Louisville based.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah.
So Louisville's home, but I'm happy to travel just about anywhere and do different things. I think there's a different interest outside of, about the 100-mile radius I sit with a bubble going a little bigger in Kentucky and less in Ohio and Indiana, where the experiences I create around here have to be unique and different to stand out because people are so familiar with bourbon, because people know the basics. But other places, they're more interested in what is bourbon. Tell me about everything I'm seeing and hearing. I'd like to know more. I don't think I'd like bourbon. And that's my job to come in and go, maybe you just haven't had the right bourbon yet. So it's two very different kind of groups I'm catering to, but I definitely think there's a fit for both.
Yeah. Where do you think this thing going? I mean, you're only 3 months into this, so I know it's very, very early on. Potentially down the road, could there be employees, like other lecture things where they teach people the Phil system to talk whiskey and then I franchise it? I'm in St. Louis. I'm the Phil Talk whiskey guy in St. Louis, that type of thing.
The one problem that I found with starting my company is since it's called Phil Talks Whiskey, everyone I hire is going to have to be named Phil. Or
Unless I legally change my name, I'm not eligible.
Yeah.
I'm not eligible. Yeah.
I don't think most bills have your personality, so you're going to have a lot of hiring HR problems probably.
That's true. Well, I think that I've learned and met so many people who are knowledgeable about whiskey and share the tale of whiskey in many great ways. When I was kind of like doing independent tours as one-offs, there was a collection of different small tour groups and different people who they called to help out with tours on a time-to-time basis, people who had a background in whiskey, who knew their history and stuff like that. So certainly, while I'm unique in the way I do it, there's other people who can do it just as well. So I'd love to expand and have a network of people who can raise the flag on Kentucky bourbon and tell the story very well from place to place. So definitely room to grow, but right now I'm just trying to see past the end of March.
Right.
We'll see.
So you get out, you do a lot of events, you've been part of the industry, you've been the tour guide where you go to distilleries. So you meet a lot of people from the world of bourbon. Is there anybody that's been elusive though, that you haven't met that you'd like to?
So I thought about this, and there's two people. And you gave me an inkling that you're going to ask this question, so it's purely a coincidence, but maybe not because he's such a titan of the industry. But I've not spent much time with Jim Rutledge. He left Fort Roses shortly after I was visiting there on a very regular basis, and I've only seen him in passing. That's a guy I would just love to sit down, pick his brain or just let him talk.
Oh yeah, he'll tell you how it is. Yeah,
I know.
He'll give you. There's no like, oh, here's the sugar coated version of what. No, he'll tell you exactly how things go down, and he's just a straight shooter. He's a great guy.
It's funny Jade mentioned it, but he's on the top of my list.
All right, Jade's got something to add there.
If we move forward in the future with another barrel pick for them, I will hit you up and you can come.
Whoa! Now that's an offer, my friend.
I'll be there with bells on. Yeah.
I never know when they're coming up or what's going to happen, but definitely it's one of the coolest group pairings I get to be part of when we get to go do that. And I don't know whether it's just going to be him solo, and sometimes it's more or less an entourage. It's awesome because everybody that's involved with it's super knowledgeable. So if we can work that out, maybe we do a tasting that day, and you can help me pick out some barrels.
That's great, Jay. Thank you so much. I got shivers for a second. That's wonderful.
So,
and then I thought about
what's the other one?
The other one, because I was trying to kind of think of two people from different walks. The other would be Alex Castle of Old Dominic down there in Tennessee. I've only met her twice briefly. I find her fascinating. I find her story fascinating. She seems incredibly smart and well-tuned with this kind of new crop of distillers and distilling. I'd love to share whiskey with Alex and learn more about her and her story. Yeah. So those are two. I mean, certainly there's a lot more. Baker Beam also came to mind, but I think those are the top two on the top of the list. So
yeah. There's a lot of people I'd like to spend some time with. I'd love to have Baker Beam on a show. It won't do it, or at least I can't get him to do it. I've met him. I'm thinking the only person in bourbon that I have not met. Get this. I think there's only one. I think I've met everybody, at least met him. And that's Ed Foote, the great Stitzel Wetzel distiller, Kentucky Bourbon Hall of Fame. I've never met Ed Foote.
I feel like Michael Beach has a direct line like a bat phone, and no one else gets to talk to Ed Foote.
Maybe I'll be nice to Mr. Veach. I'll go over and cut his grass this summer and stuff. I'll do some yard work, and maybe he'll let me talk to Ed Foote. I'd love to talk to Ed Foote. I mean, that's the one guy I've never met, never seen him, never shook his hand.
Not to pick old wounds, although they're not your old wounds. You have talked and interviewed the one Beam master distiller who was not a Beam, who's kind of been forgotten a little bit by the company's history, right?
Yes, absolutely.
What was his name? That's
Jerry Dalton.
Jerry Dalton, of course.
Yeah, the only non-Beam family member. He was the master distiller at Beam for 9 years. So it wasn't like, hey, just filling in for a month. He 9 years he did. And he did a lot of great things. I mean, you see the things that they got, the Trick to Kale and the red soft winter reed, all these different, iterations that
rolled oats, right?
Rolled oats. That was all him. He was experimenting with different grains at a time when people weren't experimenting with different grains. They're using Yellow Dent number 2. He was doing all these experiments and things like that. Cause that's the guy he should be in the Kentucky Bourbon Hall of Fame. He's not. It's a tragedy. And I wish they put him in. He's like 86 years old.
I'm going to jump in there, Steve. Since we're talking about that Bourbon Hall of Fame, neither is Steve Thompson, and it's been brought up multiple years in a row.
It aggravates me the people that aren't
every year we don't get him in there.
Don't you think that that should be, and it's set up to be the capstone of a career, but I don't know what the deal with that place is. It's like they don't take it seriously. I don't want to bash them, but they could do so much better. Steve Thompson needs to be in there, an innovator, a guy who's worked at Big Bourbon, who's started a small craft distillery. How's he not in there?
I think it's a whole show topic, breaking down
Dr.
the nominees.
James Crow not in there? Dr. James Crow, maybe one of the most important people in the history of bourbon, brought science to making whiskey. He's not in there, and he did it all in Kentucky. So some of them won't go in there because they're not Kentucky, which I don't think it should be just limited to Kentucky people. I think people like Dick Stoll, the great master distiller of Michter's, should be in the Bourbon Hall of Fame. But if you limit it to just Kentucky, well then fine. But Dr. James Crow needs to be in there. He does.
I think one of the tricky things, and again, this is a general statement because we could go down a rabbit hole, is it seems like if they feel like they have only so many spots to nominate, a number of them have to go to those visionaries who've worked at the heritage distilleries, the people who have contributed the most over the years. Because
they're the ones that ultimately nominate. So Phil, who do you think they're going to nominate? Are they going to nominate a historical figure or someone that actually has worked and spent their time at their distillery?
Yeah. So it's great that Freddie Johnson.
He's got the Brown Foreman background too. He's got both sides.
But he wasn't at the Brown Foreman. I think at the time. So when it's wonderful when you get a Freddie Johnson, but then you'll have someone who I'm not at all familiar with, who was the director of a visitor center for years, who hasn't had a very facial presence. It's confusing, so it seems some inconsistent, but that is a whole other show.
That's like you said, that's a special show. So last question. We always like to have fun with it, and this one,
Pepperoni.
This is not McNew
What?
versus
No?
Steve. I don't know her.
Very different question.
I had McNew. Don't answer this, but do you have your thoughts on? You can see the question. Do you prefer one over the other? Because I definitely do.
I like both for different reasons.
Okay. If you had to pick one, though, could you pick one, or you'd be like, nope, I like both, and they're just two different reasons. They're two different.
Like it's like a coin flip where I'm just
all right. She's not going to answer. Phil, we're going to move. I've just muted McNew's microphone. No, I'm kidding. She's co-host. We can't mute her. So last question. Who do you pick here? Who's better?
Yeah.
Bugs Bunny or Mickey Mouse?
Bugs Bunny or Mickey Mouse? I'm going to throw you a curveball based on the recent viewing habits of my kid. I'm going with Scooby-Doo. I'm going with Shaggy.
Yes, Phil.
Right?
You're
Yes.
Shaggy always has something to say.
Scooby-Doo.
I don't think we should go in there.
We got some impressions. There you go.
So
It'd be like a lot cooler if you did have a Scooby
terrified me as a child, but I love Scooby-Doo now.
Yeah, Scooby's great. Scooby's great.
It's really like the bourbon industry, except for every time they pull the mask off, it's MGP.
We should have known it was you.
Right.
It always is. We have this great story, MGP.
Yeah, you pesky kids. Yeah. All right, Jade, who's better for you? Can you answer this for us? Bugs Bunny or Mickey Mouse? So far, I've answered the question twice. Got neither answer on the other. So help me out here. Throw me a bone.
I'm definitely leaning on the Bugs Bunny train.
There you go. That's the right answer. Congratulations.
Original Space Jam. I'm leaning over there.
Yes.
Bugs was the best. He was awesome for sure. All right. Well, we'll wrap this one up. But let's hear. Well, first of all, let's hear it for Phil Collin. Great job. Phil brought it for us.
Thank you for having me on the show.
Absolutely. Great job, Phil. Love hearing your story and all that. So we'll wrap this one up, though, by talking about where people can find our guest, Jade. Since you're on first, we'll start with you. Where can people find you?
Yeah, so on Instagram, I'm just a distiller. Everywhere else, it's actually just Jade Peterson. And then you can follow the distillery at KentuckyArtisan.com or Jefferson's Bourbon.
Fair enough. Phil, how about you? Where can people find you?
I've got a website, philtalkswhiskey.com, but the more interesting and fun content is on both Twitter and Instagram. I post the pretty pictures on Instagram. I say the witty things on Twitter at Derby City Phil for both of them. And if you're interested in booking any type of experience, drop me a line. We'll talk. We'll find out something fun. Phil at philtalkswhiskey.com.
All right, here we are enjoying vacation, and we'll wrap this one up as we always do by talking about where people can find us. Justine, we'll start with you. Where can people find you?
You can find me at JA_Maze on Instagram. You can find our shop at abvnetwork.com and on Instagram at ABV Network Shop.
All right, McNew.
I am on Instagram at McNew ABV.
All right, for me, I'm an easy guy to find. I'm at Steve Akeley on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook. I've got a website, steveakeley.com. We've also got a company website. That thing's abvnetwork.com. Check it out because everything that we do is out there. Previous shows, blogs, so much more. Maybe you're going on a summer road trip. We've got about 3,000 shows you can listen to, so check us out at abvnetwork.com. Please also check out abvbarrelshop.com. Get on our email distribution list. We'll let you know what's in the store, when we're going to be getting things open. Our target date right now is July 9th. It looks very good for that. Of course, some of the things are out of our hands, licensing and that, but it looks like we're going to be on track for that. And, barring any bump in the road, we should be good to go. And I'm very excited about that. So there you go. abvbarrelshop.com. McNew, anything else to say before we get out of here?
I would like to remind the audience to please give us a 5-star review. That includes comments. It helps new people find the show, which is very important to us. And if you like what we're doing, we ask that you please visit our Patreon page at patreon.com/the ABV Network.
All right, there you go. Well, the three of us will be back tomorrow when we introduce the next show while we're on vacation. Take care, everybody. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
Peace. Before we finish the show, let's talk about some great companies that support the ABV network. First up is Moonshine Still Pro. Moonshine Still Pro has a full line of products to help the home distiller. Whether you want to experiment on the stove in your kitchen or you're looking for a bigger setup in your backyard, owner Russell Creed and his team can help. They have multiple still offerings, accessories, and even grain from their partners at Goldstone Mill to assist you in making whiskey on par with your favorite distillery. They can also help you with some fabricated parts you probably can't make yourself if you are attempting a DIY still project. Learn more or order your still or parts at moonshinestillpro.com. Another friend of ours is the Goldstein family at Goldstone Mill. The Goldsteins offer a variety of heritage and heirloom grains to make the finest whiskeys in the world. Plus, they are more than just a grain company. They are truly consultants to make sure the grains they are providing to you or your business meet your highest expectations. Additionally, they work with mills around the country, ensuring shipping is as low as possible for their customers. If you're a distillery, brewery, or even doing this at home, Goldstone can assist you. Check them out at goldstonemill.com, call them at 217-254-6613, or check in via email at hello@goldstonemill.com. Last but not least is the ABV Barrel Shop. While we don't get to play in the allocated bourbon game because we aren't selling the other products you have to do to get those, we do have access via our friendships in the bourbon industry to some really cool stuff. Have you ever seen your favorite craft distiller selling some really cool limited offerings only in their gift shop? I'm talking things like the hazmat offering Distillery 291 did for their 10th anniversary, or Neely Family Distillery's upcoming Papaw's birthday barrel. They don't have enough of it to send it out to distributors, so they only sell it via their gift shop. Well, companies like Distillery 291 and Neely Family Distillery have agreed to sell us 2 or 3 cases of these offerings moving forward, meaning our store will have the access to some of the rarest whiskeys in the world. Way more difficult to come by than the allocated bourbon offerings with a national release. Yes, they will be extremely tough to come by, but if you're a customer of our store, you'll have a chance to get them. Get signed up for our email or text list over at abvbarrelshop.com so you don't miss out.
The Bourbon Daily is part of the ABV Network. For more information or to become a sponsor, please visit abvnetwork.com. Thanks for listening and cheers.
This has been a Steve Akeley production.